My thesis is that history is something that you can decipher if you see it as the story of the tug of war between two human impulses. And one impulse is to reach out across borders and try to connect with other people who are not like ourselves. And the other impulse is to close ranks with our own kind against the other and form tighter bonds with our own. So these are opposite tendencies, and I think all through history we've been doing both. So history has been generated by that tug of war. And then I think, when you come in close, what you find is that there's three things that are always involved. One is the environment. We're trying to cope with wherever we are. One are tools, because that makes a difference all through history, whatever we're using. But the third thing, which is the most important thing right now, is our narratives. We're all living in some story of the world, and we have different stories. And so what we see all over the world is a failure to understand one another because we're not living in the same world, because we're not living in the same story.
How your personal background shaped your view and the way that you looked at the history of humankind at all?
Well, I think, it's very pertinent, actually, because I think that if you grow up bicultural, like I did, if you grew up in two different worlds, my experience was when I was in an Afghan setting, I was Afghan, and when I moved over and I was in an American setting, I was an American, and these were two different things. And I could even see myself changing as I moved from one setting to the other. And it wasn't just me changing, it was the world changing. So what that produces is a sense of how relative everything is. The extent to which what we think is real is actually only the narrative we share with everyone who agrees with us. And so, that's the starting point for me.
Very interesting. And so overall, I mean, this is a very heavy topic that you're working on, and it's huge, has so many things in it. But overall, Mr. Ansary, are you optimistic in terms of human beings' achievements through the history, through the years, in terms of violence and having a better understanding of each other? And overall, do you think that human beings made a lot of progress or not?
I think they have and they haven't. I think some of the stories that we live with in the world aren't about progress. Our story here mostly is about progress. We have this belief that each day is and should be better than the day before, and we want to go into the new and the different. But in a lot of ways, in the Islamic world, the impulse hasn't been on into the new. It's the perfect moment already happened. We have to restore it. We have to get back to that. We have to find out what was great about that and be there. I'm not saying I have an opinion about which one is true or which one is false. I'm just saying there are different stories. What I do see is that all through history, people have overlapped and they have been, culturally at odds with one another. And there's been friction and there's been, misunderstanding, there's been fighting. But over time, if they keep interacting, they build a bigger story they share. And right now, we're in a world in which everybody's bumping into everybody. Indians, Chinese, Americans, Africans, Muslims. You're bumping elbows against people in the same space who are living in different stories. Over time, those are going to mix, and there will be a bigger story that will include all of us. There's no quick way to get there. There's only, going through all the heartache, all the friction, all the argument, but always, the road of progress is to try to see how to rise above our separate stories to see what a bigger story is that we share.